Thanks for tuning into another edition of Another Dolphins podcast. We are returning. The Jake and Josh show is back. And before we get too far into this episode, I got to start with a huge thank you to Joshua Houtz and Brian Catt for recapping maybe one of the worst losses in Miami Dolphins history. So Joshua Houtz, I'm glad to be seeing you again. How you doing today?
I'm doing better than the last time I think that I was on here talking. We were recapping that 31-10 heartbreaking loss to the Buffalo Bills. But, you know, we've had a couple days now to stew on this. I know that you're back, and I'm sure you want to talk about it. But we're here. We're here, Jake. We're going to get through this season. There's still a lot of games to be played, and we're still here. So happy to be able to talk Dolphins football with you, as always. How have you been, Jake? It's been a little bit since I saw your smiling face.
Dude, I went to North Carolina for the first time. I never understood how beautiful it was. The rent is cheaper than up here in Massachusetts. And ever since I returned, all I can think about is Bojangles. I need more Bojangles, dude. For chicken tenders and fries, that place is absolutely peak, 10 out of 10. And I did listen to your guys' podcast. It maybe didn't feel like a vacation while listening to your podcast, but outside of that, I think it was a pretty wonderful time. So thank you for giving me a little time away.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess you couldn't have picked a better week, right? I mean, at least you got to, I guess, get away from whatever it was that we witnessed. But again, 16 games to be played still, or 15 games to be played still. A lot of football.
The only sweaters, windbreaker, long sleeve shirts I brought to North Carolina were Dolphins related. And I think I speak for this entire fan base when I say that I didn't wear any of that stuff again throughout the entire weekend. I was borrowing my buddy's sweatshirts, mostly Josh, because I think you might feel the same way. I am so tired of hearing everyone's opinion. Not, Jahavid Bess, who retired from the NFL with concussions, or someone like Teddy Bruschi, who returned to the NFL after having a stroke. I am so tired of cab driver number 7 saying, you know what the Dolphins should do? What's Matt Ryan doing these days? Dude, I am so tired of everybody in the entire universe, just because we're Dolphin fans. They think that they have this brilliant realization that this is what the Dolphins should be doing. And we haven't heard it before. It has been the most tiring week of my life when I have to read beneath every single post, you know what the Dolphins should do? Because, Josh, we didn't see everything that happened. We haven't been following this team for 20 plus years. Guy number 4 knows what the Dolphins should be doing. So to me, I didn't get to wear my Dolphin stuff because it's genuinely frustrating to not hear. Again, I am all for listening to credible people, learning, understanding. We bond over, how we live our lives, how we grow, shared experiences. We don't grow from cab driver number 7 going through a list of 7 quarterbacks and explaining, hey, man, Joe Flacco did it last year. Why don't you just get Ryan Tannehill? I'm sorry. I had to get all that off my chest. That's probably we saw our franchise quarterback take such a hard hit. Heart was broken, dude. It was such a sad night. And the only thing I had to make me feel better was cab driver number 7 telling me how the Dolphins should respond.
Yeah, and it normally comes right after, they sit there and they go on a rant about how only Tua can make this decision, right? But then they chime in with their decision, of course. So I've been feeling the exact same way up here, whether it was wearing a beanie, to parent pickup today. I had someone ask me what I thought the times that we're in right now, right? It was a primetime game. It happened again in front of the entire world, and this is what's to come. But are we burying the lead, Jake? Because they did announce that now he is officially on injured reserve, right? So everyone can rest easy a little bit. Tua Tagovailoa is going to take his time. I think he has to be on there for at least 4 weeks. Correct me if I'm wrong. So this gives him plenty of time to meet with neurologists to get a second, third, fourth opinion, and to make sure that when he's back out there, he's 100%, which again is all anybody should care about. So it was absolutely devastating to see happen. We don't need to continue to hear everyone's, narrative surrounding it. We just got to figure out how to move on from this and just pray to God we never see it again. But at this point, man, an injury just seems like it's inevitable. And at that point, the Dolphins, they got to start looking down the road to maybe, what they need to do if in case Tua Tagovailoa does get knocked out again.
Exactly, Josh. And placing Tua on injured reserve makes so much sense. Gives Tua all the time in the world he needs. It also kind of prevents the reporters, which they would do, and it's their job to do. Every week we're not going to have to ask, is this the week Tua comes back? Is this the week Tua comes back? And not only did the Dolphins place Tua on injured reserve, Josh, it seems like they have also added to this mix at quarterback by signing veteran Baltimore Ravens quarterback, Miami legend Tyler Huntley to the roster. So let's talk into that, Josh. You have a great rundown here. Can you tell me a little bit about Tyler Snoop Huntley? Maybe can we start with why people call him Snoop?
Yeah, well, I wish I had an answer to that, but I think Omar was like, "Hey, how long have we been calling him Snoop?" And Nick Hicks, Perform, I guess, who has been training Huntley in the past, said we've been calling him that forever. So apparently that's his nickname. I'm fine calling him Snoop if that's what we want to call him. Played all 4 seasons with the Ravens. He was on the Baltimore. He was on the Cleveland Browns. He's with them on their practice squad. Ended up releasing him. He signed again with the Ravens this offseason. 3-6 as a starter. He was 0-1 in 2023. I went back and looked. He completed 27 of 37 passes for 203 yards and 3 touchdowns. But I think what he can do that, maybe Skylar Thompson can't, but I think maybe Skylar Thompson can, is he runs the ball. And that's where I think see this offense evolve, and maybe they can mask some of those deficiencies that we see with the offensive line and things like that. So I'm intrigued by this. He's not going to come in and start this week. It's obviously Skylar's time to go into 12th man in Seattle, but Mike McDaniel definitely left the door open that later down the road the competition will play out on the field. So I like this signing. You can't really get a better veteran quarterback in this stage, for the price. Just poaching him off a team's practice squad, sign me up. And again, he's 26 years old, has started in the league, has experience there, and he was, some people say he's like a Timu Lamar Jackson. So let's ride, right? Let's ride.
Josh, you've been a Dolphin fan for a long time. I don't think this is too complicated, but why do you think that Tyler Huntley is the perfect quarterback signing for the Dolphins over someone like Ryan Tannehill?
I mean, for me, I guess it'd probably just be the one report is Ryan Tannehill wants to be a starter, right, for the entire season. And in the perfect world, we're going to get Tua Tagovailoa back, I believe, probably right after the bye, if my math serves me correct, given that 4-week timeline.
Sorry, Josh, just to kind of help you with that real quick. He has to miss 4 games. So the Seattle Seahawks in week 3, the Tennessee Titans in week 4, the New England Patriots in week 5. The week 6 bye doesn't count towards that injury designation. So he'll also missed the Colts game on October 20th. That lined him up. The earliest he could possibly return is week 8 against the Arizona Cardinals. But, man, I just scrolled down and I see week 9 is at the Buffalo Bills. So I don't want to get too deep down that path, but I just wanted to clear that up. My bad.
No, that was perfect because I would have thought it was 4 weeks, not 4 games. So glad you cleared that up. And then he comes back either way, though, with 10 games to go. So, that's why they didn't go out there and get a Ryan Tannehill who wants to start. And let's be honest, his cap was going to cost significantly more than, I believe whatever Tyler Huntley's making, which is probably close to league minimum. So I like this signing. Again, I don't think we're going to sit here and say that they're going to salvage the season. But at this point, we just need the Dolphins to stay afloat until Tua Tagovailoa comes back. At least we hope he comes back. And at this point, we're just assuming those things.
One thing that McDaniel was asked about was the evolution of this offense, Josh. And this was probably one of the most exciting things he said during that press conference about what we'll see from the Dolphins moving forward. Because throughout the days, the weeks, the months, who knows, people have kind of accepted that this is a timing offense and it's all about speed, and only Tua can be the one to really navigate these waters correctly. Mike McDaniel kind of pulled that back a little bit, and he actually brought up the fact that when he was in Washington in 2012, they weren't doing a lot of zone read stuff, a lot of zone option stuff, but you get RG3 in the mix, and all of a sudden you're learning and you're doing different things. And to me, man, that really speaks to what the Dolphins can do with Tyler Huntley and maybe even Skylar Thompson, Josh, because I think one of the gripes we've had is why aren't they using Skylar Thompson's mobility more than they have in the past?
Yeah, and I actually had someone say, what wheels does he have? And I looked it up, and I believe he had over 1,000 yards total combined rushing yards in college, and he also had like 26 total touchdowns. So this was something that we wanted to see the Dolphins kind of evolve into, in that wild card game. So I would love to see this be an added wrinkle to this offense again. That's, at times looks like, they kind of turn into a pumpkin, right? When the defense has those too high of separation, or Jalen Waddle. I mean, we need to find a way for this thing to start going. So if you need to use that quarterback's mobility, get creative in that aspect, I'm here for it. So definitely intrigued to see what comes. But again, I'm going to definitely temper my expectations because, we didn't go out there and sign a Tom Brady, right? This isn't Tom Brady coming in here. Again, it's Snoop Huntley, who was on a practice squad, if we're being honest.
And that was going to be the best the Dolphins are going to do here is a practice squad quarterback. You had Mike McDaniel, you have Tyreek Hill, you have Jalen Waddle. Josh, you're supposed to have a very dynamic rushing attack as well. How do you feel about Miami's ability to turn chicken, into chicken salad when you kind of look at this upcoming schedule, starting with the Seahawks, the Titans, and the Patriots? 3 games, man, where if we wanted to really, really dive into it, and we're going to be doing that throughout the week as we prepare for that Seahawks game, those are 3 matchups, man, where for the oldest roster in the NFL, this championship pedigree that the Miami Dolphins have, these, I think, even without a franchise quarterback, should be considered winnable games.
Yeah, and I feel like all games at this point should be with the roster the Dolphins have, built, and just with every given Sunday, right? We see it every single week. We're seeing our survivor pools getting busted the first week, right, Jake? And then you're sitting here laying bets down. Oh, the Eagles are definitely going to beat the Falcons. Okay, that didn't happen either. So anything can happen in the NFL, and that's why we're going to sit here and we're going to believe that Skylar Thompson or Tyler Huntley, whoever it is, can go out there and win those manageable games. For me, I hope it's just relying on that run game. We saw Devon Achane have a career high 22 carries last week, 96 yards. Again, he led the team in passing. Again, receptions, 7 catches. He had 7 week 1. So Devon Achane's a guy who you just need to get the ball in his hands, and hopefully that maybe opens things up for Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, as crazy as that might sound, because those guys, I don't want to say they haven't been playing up to par, but we need more out of those playmakers, especially when you have Skylar Thompson out there, especially when you have Tyler Huntley. And I think the one thing that we got to remember is this is going to be Skylar Thompson's first time to go out there with those starters, right? We sit here and we wrinkle our nose at what he's done, but he doesn't have the same timing. He doesn't have the same chemistry with some of those guys. So getting first team reps hopefully means the world to Skylar Thompson. And for as much as I say Tyler Huntley might have some potential, if Skylar Thompson plays well enough and exceeds our expectations that we don't even see Tyler Huntley, that to me is the best case scenario, that in year 3, Skylar Thompson is a true backup quarterback. So sky's the limit, right? Skylar's the limit, or whatever the hell we used to say.
So he was 8 for 14 last week against the Buffalo Bills in his limited appearance. He's 1 for 1 in his career as a starter. And just something we say a lot, and I think people kind of misinterpret it, is the idea that he nearly beat the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs. The Dolphins lost that game 34-31. And I think we both remember Zach Sealer rumbling, bumbling, stumbling into the end zone, having that fumble recovery for a touchdown. We understand that Skylar Thompson wasn't carrying this entire team on his back in that playoff appearance. We know the week before, Josh, in order to make the playoffs, what was that Jets game? 9-6 with the grossest game in history. So I wanted to get your thoughts on the idea of when can we kind of hope that Skylar Thompson, he's had this experience, right? He played in that playoff game. That's experience. Do we see this start to form into a confident quarterback entering year 3?
I hope so. I mean, I really do hope so. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and make any bets and, wager that, because we've been there before, right? Tyler Thigpen. I posted a new header. It has all the quarterbacks that we all got hyped about, right? We've been down this road before, but it is year 3. It is a guy that, the Dolphins have groomed for this long. He beat out Mike White, who had some experience. So I think if Skylar Thompson is, an NFL quarterback, at least a backup by any stretch of the imagination, he needs to go out there and prove it. And I know Seattle's going to be a tough place for him. I know he doesn't have that type of experience, so to speak, but he's done enough and he's got enough experience and he has enough weapons on this offense where I think he can exceed expectations. And again, I think that defense, Anthony Weaver's defense, they need to shut down things too, right? We need them to step up as well, get some turnovers and things like that. So I hope Skylar can do it. I hope he proves us all wrong, but I don't know, man.
How do you think this goes through the twists and turns of the next couple of weeks? Skylar Thompson, there's no doubt about it, he's going to start against the Seahawks. Could that game impact at all who starts the following Monday night against the Tennessee Titans? Would you be comfortable? Let's say the Dolphins, lose 24-10 to the Seattle Seahawks. Is that a situation where you'd want to put in Snoop Huntley and have him start in primetime football against the Tennessee Titans? Just hoping you do what the Panthers are doing right now. You're just throwing anything against the wall. Our season's on fire. We're making these stupid choices. We just need to try to win football games. Do you see Miami going down that path where it's, all right, Skylar, the clock has ran out. Nothing was going well against Seattle. We got to see what Snoop Huntley can do. Is that something Miami would do quickly when you consider the fact that this is going to be a long-term thing and you might not want to burn the Skylar bridge that quickly? Or is it going to be a kind of a Panic at the Disco type scene?
No, that's a very good point. You mentioned because you might be burning that bridge a little early. I think unless he goes out there and plays absolutely horrible, I think he probably gets another start at least. For me, I wonder how much of the we hear how intricate and things that Mike McDaniel's offense is. How quickly can he get brought up to speed? And then will the Dolphins utilize him in any special packages? I mean, that would be my perfect scenario, right? You have Skylar Thompson go out there this week, play football. Next week, maybe you sprinkle in some packages with Tyler
Oh,
Huntley using
okay.
that mobility while he still continues to learn the playbook. And then maybe that I think that then we'd be at a bye then, or is there still one more game? My head's all over the place. I think there's still be one more game before the bye, and then at that point, maybe if Snoop Huntley's ready, maybe you make the switch. But like you said, man, it's Skylar. This could be a long situation here. Ideally, to his back in 4 weeks at the minimum. We don't know if he's going to come back. So, yeah, decisions. But again, I hope Skylar plays well enough where it's a little bit harder for the Dolphins.
I do want to talk more about the Miami Dolphins quarterback situation. Specifically, I have a big priority for Mike McDaniel. But Josh, you pulled out some next-gen stats here, and I thought this was so interesting. To take away the Dolphins' big playability, the Bills ran split safeties on 31 of 43 dropbacks, 72%. That's the fourth highest in the game since 2018. They also played zone 84% of the time with 4 pass rushers, blitzed just twice all game. Josh, you do such an excellent job at HOUTZ on Twitter. Take it to the Houtz on YouTube, and even just in your stories for the Finsider. Is this a scenario where for the Dolphins offense to be successful, is it what we wanted from like Patrick Mahomes 2 years ago, where were there opportunities for the Miami Dolphins to still dink and dunk their way down the field, and maybe where they ran into some trouble was still trying to push the ball? We spoke about it a lot over the years. 2022, Tua led the league in yards per attempt. Last year, he led the league in yards. Was it a scenario where it was Tua like trying to force into these heavy zones and there were still opportunities to dink and dunk, or was Miami grasping for any sort of straws against the Bills?
I mean, I hate to say it, but it almost seems like the Bills have the Dolphins number, and it just seems like, we just cannot hit anything working there. So I think that they're going to have that underneath stuff. But if the Dolphins want to be the Dolphins, they got to be able to break off those big plays, and we just cannot get anything going against the Bills. So I love that those next gen stats were there because that came from directly from the NFL. But it sounds like a lot of teams are playing a lot more too high safety. And I mean, you can see Patrick Mahomes' like next gen chart this week looked a lot like Tua's, where I think I had 2 of 8 targets were over 10 plus air yards for Tua. I mean, they were not stretching the ball at all downfield. And it was, again, a hat tip to what the Buffalo Bills came out there and did. They were ready for that. And it just sucks because that was the team you have to dethrone to win the AFC East.
And I hate the idea that, dinking and dunking the football is such a negative and such a bad thing. Josh, we saw Tom Brady, and I'm not going to go out there and compare any quarterback to Tom Brady, but you do what you got to do to win football games. So when I saw the Dolphins throwing downfield to Grant Dubois, sorry, and you see him throwing downfield to Robbie Chosen, man, that just had me scratching my head when you think, we still have Jonnu Smith. Tanner Connor is one of 3 players to ever know the entire Mike McDaniel playbook. He's not in the mix. So I was really hoping they kind of just keep, just dinking and dunking throughout the entire game because, man, this offensive line looked brutal. I mean, starting with Von Miller, he generated 4 pressures and a sack on just 14 pass rush attempts against Austin Jackson. Where does this offensive line go, man? I think Teron Armstead, he left the game. He's considered day-to-day with a shoulder injury, which is no surprise that he took only a couple weeks to get on the injury report. Where does this offensive line go? Can the Dolphins even survive with having these 5 men, guarding the quarterback for less than 3 seconds on any given play?
For me, Jake, going back and watching it, Robert Hunt played brutal. I mean, I know we read off the stats. Austin Jackson had trouble with Von Miller, but it seemed
Robert
like those
Jones?
guards were getting who'd I say? Robert Jones.
Hunt.
What'd I say? Robert Hunt. Oh man, that's what we wish it was, Robert Hunt. Okay. Damn. Yeah, it was definitely not Robert Hunt. Robert Jones is getting eaten up all game long. So the offensive line, where do we go from here? I mean, if Armstead's out, I would like to see Patrick Paul sooner than later. We'll probably see Kendall Lamb this week if that's the case. I think McDaniel called him day to day, so we'll see we're there. But I don't know, man. We got to continue to get the ball out fast as hell and just hope and pray because it just seems like this offensive line. We continue to mask it, continue to say in Bush Berry we trust, but at the end of the day, it's just not getting the job done. And when you look around the NFL and see some of those successful teams, a lot of them it is because of that offensive line, which the Dolphins have struggled for years to solidify.
The Dolphins are averaging only 3.7 yards per carry. Josh, if you had to guess off the top of your head, what's Miami's longest rush through 2 games? If you had to guess, where would it be?
longest rush? Like 38 yards? I don't know.
17 yards by Devon Achane. And, the offense, the passing offense has had its big issues. But, man, I just look at this rushing attack and how Miami's had strictly no answers. The idea of Miami's offensive line is that they're supposed to be great at running the football, and that just hasn't been the case either. So when we try to think about how this offense is going to find any sort of success, I mean, I'm getting a little queasy. Think it's going to be just Devon Achane and then everyone else, Josh. Is this a scenario where the Miami Dolphins are going to be forced to kind of hope for that? Could we see more Jalen Wright moving forward? Is Jeff Wilson or Raheem Mostert going to be healthy enough to really help move this offense forward?
Damn, that's a lot of questions. I'm not sure, man. We can't sit here and trust Devon Achane to stay healthy for the entire season, right? That's just not sustainable. Just like we're seeing, you mentioned how crazy it was to see Robbie Chosen and Grant DuBose out there. I mean, what does that mean with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle? Like, why weren't they out there? So are they banged up? I mean, I don't know, man. Someone needs to step up. I'd love to see more Jalen Wright. I hope Raheem Mostert's healthy, but it just seems like it's going to be this. That's so Dolphins. The entire season's going to be, picking and choosing whichever healthy pieces we have and hoping for the best. But I guess that's what the NFL is, right? It's an entire marathon, and we just got to hope that the Dolphins can stay healthy enough to get to the finish line.
I was a little worried, man. Didn't it seem like the Dolphins, and I still do a poor job of explaining this, but the idea that they just keep running the same plays, like you have Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert, and then you can quote unquote replace them with guys like Jalen Wright and then Jeff Wilson, where you can have that same identity. And the Dolphins tried to do the same thing at receiver. You have Malik Washington stepping in one side for someone like Tyreek Hill, not to be Tyreek Hill, but somebody who can get open on a quick route, something along those lines. And then you have on the other side, you're hoping that Odell Beckham would be that guy. But Josh, it looks very, very different when it's Grant DuBose and Robbie Chosen out there. Are you starting to feel that maybe Mike McDaniel needs to slow down here a little bit when he's kind of focusing on play calling here? Because it just seems like they wanted to have this whole thing in place where you can be a track meet without Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And God, man, no, you can't.
Yeah, and I'm going to hope that maybe it was just them, they saw that the game is getting out of reach. Maybe they were trying to, keep them healthy for this little stretch of games we have, but it was not promising at all. I guess my question is going to be, could they maybe potentially call up Eric Ezukanma? Where's he at in his, he is Skylar Thompson's number one. That's his preseason baby. Those two have had, I thought it was like some kind of crazy chemistry during the regular season, all preseason highlights, but bring him up. He can't be worse than Grant DuBose. He can't be worse. Well, we know he's not worse than Robbie. I like Robbie Chosen, but you know what I mean? Someone needs to step up. And do you think we ever see Odell Beckham Jr.? Jake, you mentioned Odell Beckham. You think we ever see him at this point? I mean, I guess it depends on Tua. I mean, if you're Odell, you're not coming back unless Tua is there, right? I mean, ain't no reason to.
If as a Dolphins fan, I will go ballistic if we're under the impression that Odell Beckham Jr. isn't coming back till Tua comes back. I will lose my ever-loving mind because Tua was out there without Odell Beckham Jr. and he paid the prices for it, right? So that would send me off an absolute cliff. I think that what McDaniel said that Odell Beckham Jr. these 4 weeks, it kind of felt like they put him on the pup list just so we wouldn't have to be talking about every week and he'd be ready sooner rather than later. I'd be absolutely livid, but man, I absolutely also love the idea of someone like Eric Ezukanma. I think that fits well.
But now I'm going spin zone, and I do remember Tyler Huntley played with Odell Beckham in Baltimore. So there we go. Now, if they make the move to Tyler Huntley, then they'll have Odell Beckham. That's when he's going to be activated. We're spinning out of control here. We're grasping for straws, trying to tell you why the season's going to get better, right? Because it is.
I still think it will, Josh. I know this is brutal, and with or without Tua, I really think we have a roster here, and it's blowing so much hot air. But my God, man, like when you have the group of Calais Campbell up front, Jordan Poyer and Jalen Ramsey are going to be good eventually, right? Like that's supposed to happen sometime this year.
Is Ramsey cooked? Like there's stories going around like is Ramsey cooked? And oh man, there's like 5-minute highlight videos of it, and I'm just like, I must have been looking through my aqua and orange hued glasses when I was watching that tape because I didn't think he was that bad, but that'd be so Dolphins, wouldn't it?
We're at a point too, Josh. Like, is it unreasonable to ask for the Dolphins defense to do some heavy lifting in the coming weeks? Does this team not have the talent where we could say, all right, defense, we're going to have to win games 17-10. And when you look at the Seahawks, when you look at the Patriots, I mean, these are teams where I think the defense, the Tennessee Titans, these are teams where I think the defense could really step up and show out, and they're going to need it. I think this could be like an early season Anthony Weaver masterclass, and that's how the Miami Dolphins, I think, are going to survive this. Create a couple of turnovers. If they could find, like, the Dolphins have yet to play, I think, a single snap without the lead this season, Josh. That's why the rushing game has struggled. That's why they're averaging 3.7 yards per carry, because when you have a 7-point lead, you can do whatever the hell you want with the football. So give me a stop, a turnover, get on the Seahawks early. I think there's still a way, man, where you can really see McDaniel's rushing attack shine, even if you don't have QB1 under center, behind center, depending on the play.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. I'm ready to see Anthony Weaver's defense step up. And I thought they played okay. You know, I don't think they were necessarily the reason Dolphins lost any of these games. Jacksonville Jaguars, I should say. So I'd love to see Anthony Weaver's defense step up. Chop Robinson, you got to give him a hat tip. I think Pro Football Focus graded him as like the best defensive player on the in the game last Thursday against the Bills. So is he going to get more of a role? I don't know. But yeah, our defense can step up and carry this offense, because God knows the offense carried defense plenty of times, right?
Watching the game on Thursday night, Josh, I've decided that I have one massive request, we could even call it a demand, for Mike McDaniel as coach of the Miami Dolphins. I think he's a great play caller. I think he's a great scheme designer. What I think the issue is that he gets really caught up in the game. What we saw happening on Thursday night was a total disaster, Josh. And I'm just going to walk through it. I know we've done it a couple of times, but the ball bounces off Grant DuBois' hands. It turns into an interception the other way. That's Tua trusting a wide receiver that the Miami Dolphins signed following the 53-man roster cutdown day. The Dolphins could have signed someone like Noah Brown, a veteran wide receiver who had a couple solid years in the Texans. Above all else, I think he can catch the football. When Grant DuBois was signed by the Miami Dolphins, it was, oh, he's such a great blocker. He could do all this dirty work. Why weren't the Miami Dolphins, when you consider Odell Beckham Jr. is going to be out, Malik Washington's going to be out, why don't we consider drafting someone who can, or signing someone who can catch the football? I don't know. And then the following drive, Josh, I know you love Robbie Chosen. Miami makes the same issue. You have a trustworthy tight end who had an awful week one in Durham Smythe, who is third on the team in receptions and targets a year ago. You have Jonnu Smith trying to get comfortable. Tanner Conner knows the playbook. You have a great group of receiving backs. And, oh, by the way, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are just chilling. Instead, you throw it to Robbie Chosen, hoping he'll be where the ball is going to be. The dude is playing Dance Dance Revolution instead of doing the right route. Sails over his head for a second interception. All of a sudden, Tua's on the sideline looking annoyed. Tyreek Hill sitting there complaining. Mike McDaniel needs to be the one to go out there. Guys, relax. Guys, breathe. I shouldn't have had those guys out there. I should have played a slower game. This isn't a scenario against the Buffalo Bills where we should be trusting Grant DuBois on a 3rd and 8, Robbie Chosen on whatever it may be. This is a scenario where you get the ball in your playmakers' hands. You don't run the plays for your playmakers with those guys instead. And then Josh, with all the panic, all the urgency that's ripping apart the Dolphins, nobody ever said, guys, let's just breathe for a second. Let's cool down. We have Tua trying to be freaking Superman, trying to escape pressure because the entire offensive line is on skates. The pick six, and goes back to the sideline. Tua's feeling helpless. The game is feeling hopeless. Why at any point did McDaniel not go up to anyone and say, guys, we're down 31-10. Let's not try to score 21 points on one play. You know, we have an issue with the fact that Tua didn't slide. We have an issue that Tua ran right into DeMar Hamlin. I have an issue with how Mike McDaniel's been unable to just get his team to calm the F down. Bradley Chubb in that Titans game rips his helmet off, and it started an entire team implosion. So I think when we kind of see the issues of this Miami Dolphins team, they get kind of just caught up in a moment. Like, you need someone just to kind of, whether it's a screaming argument, telling people to sit down and shut up just to breathe for a second. It just seems like they got so caught up in a tornado and were so helpless, and then just tried to score everything in one play where it just led to failure. I think that when we see how this Miami Dolphins team has dissolved over the last 7-8 games, it has to start with Mike McDaniel just getting everyone to chill out and believe in themselves.
Yeah, and I think in week one, Jake, we heard at halftime, Tua was giving that rah, rah, rah speech. Everybody kind of, rallied around. They went out and played much better against Jacksonville. He was playing like butt, so he probably wasn't the one doing that. He wasn't the one trying to get everybody up. So you need your coach, right? You need him to get in those players' faces, to have a little bit of an edge. And I think, that's still one of those things that a lot of people are, wondering if Mike McDaniel has in him, right? That was the one trait that they weren't sure. Does he have that, edge, the ability to go up there and, ruffle a player that's not really necessarily playing as well as they should? I mean, we've yet to see it. We yet to see this team truly, show that type of grit. So it's a good question to ask. I was wondering if maybe the Dolphins shouldn't, maybe let Frank Smith call plays, right? Maybe, I think we discussed that before. I don't think you really make that. I guess you'd make that switch maybe at the bye or something like that. So maybe that's something to keep an eye on. But I think you're right. For him being calling plays for the first, this is his third season now. He's still young and still adapting, but it definitely seems like his head at times is in other places, or he outsmarts himself. Again, why is Grant DeBose in there? Why is Robbie Chosen in there? When you pay those players standing on the sideline smiling to be in a game making those plays. I mean, I tweeted something out. Tyreek Hill hasn't had more than like 83 yards, I think, since he joined the Dolphins against the Bills. And people were joking like, okay, well, the secondary is depleted. He'll be fine. And he didn't do it again. And I think Jalen Waddle was a complete ghost. I mean, we love those players. We love everything they're capable of. But every time we seem to have a time when they need to step up and play their best, everyone just seems to, I don't know where I'm going with this.
It goes, dude, the idea that Mike McDaniel, he is so gung-ho on finding the perfect play to beat the defense. How about the perfect play to have your players out there? Maybe something where, I don't know what else you can do for Grant DeBose, but for someone like Robbie Chosen, just get him running in a straight line, like that. Whether it's a slant, whether it's a drag, just get him running where it's not a stop and start, where you have to kind of trust him to be the guy. Have somebody rolling out so you can have time to let the play develop. It just seems like that Mike McDaniel gets so stuck in this is the defense they're running. This is going to be the play to beat it, and we've seen it time and time again where that's not the case. The Dolphins, they failed to have, I don't know, bread and butter plays, it seems like. Just a couple go-to, just quick hitters that don't have to be super flashy that, hey, if we need 7 yards on third down, we can do it. And to me, man, please jump in if you're wrong. That seems like such an issue for the Dolphins because I just watching that game, I mean, somebody has to keep Tua grounded. He's the ultimate competitor. Like, he is going to try to run over the Jets defender if you don't stay in his head over and over again, because he doesn't, like, we see what's happening on these interceptions, and there are going to be a lot of people that call them excuses, but Tua's not going to call them excuses. He's going to see 3 interceptions on his score sheet, and he's going to say, I got to go out there and do whatever I can to put this team on my back. Other quarterbacks do that, and they're called franchise quarterbacks. So, and that's what leads you to, running it on 3rd and 8 when you're down 21 in a 21-31, whatever it was, in a game that was, you can't come back on. That needs to be Mike McDaniel to say, all right, man, let's just try to get you comfortable against this defense, figure out some things that are going to work, because you're not going to be able to run all the way down the field and score 21 points on this play. That, to me, it just stuck out of, McDaniel looking confused, whether it's, I don't even like to joke that he's, vaping on the sideline, just lost in the smoke on the sideline. It's, dude, wake up for a second. Go talk to your guys and really have everyone focus in about the situation they're in and all the issues that can still come of it. Because to me, man, that's a big, big issue for the Miami Dolphins. Probably bigger than some of the other things we've seen so far.
Yeah, it looks almost absolutely shell-shocked at times. And it always goes back. And, I'm sitting here, you're listening to us kind of critique Mike McDaniel. It reminds me of everything you said about Brian Flores and how, in a snap of fingers, everything was gone. So we definitely need to see Mike McDaniel rise to the occasion over these next few weeks. We mentioned him. Does he have that grit? Does he have that edge? Based on Hard Knocks, right? Every time he needed to give a speech, it seemed like Anthony Campanella was up there in front of the team, right? Getting everybody fired up and, trying to get everybody run through a wall. So I just hope Mike McDaniel shows us this young Shula type that, Stephen Ross was looking for, and we don't end up in the same damn situation we've been in time and time again. So big things on the horizon for the Dolphins, and Mike McDaniel needs to step up for sure.
Josh, I got a little bit of bad news here. The Dolphins have also signed Jackson Carman to their practice squad and released wide receiver Robbie Chosen from the practice squad as well.
I'm a little hurt by that, but he did slip. I did have written down that he slipped on that field. It was a bad route, but he did slip on that field. But good riddance, Robbie Chosen.
The Dance Dance Revolution thing, that's me being a little dramatic. Like players do slip, but in a situation like that, you don't want the players to be in a situation where they could slip. You know what I mean? Players are going to fall. Those comeback routes, especially for someone like Robbie Chosen on skates. Just something I wanted to wrap up here. I just kind of wanted to run through Miami Dolphins receiving core a little bit more. Who's going to step up? Who is going to be the guy that steps up for this unit? You obviously cannot trust anyone but behind Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And when you look at how this wide receiver group is built, you're hoping that people can, catch the football. So Skylar Thompson, Snoop Huntley, either way, give me someone not named Tyreek Hill, someone not named Jalen Waddle, who you think can really be that guy to really settle this offense down just by simply catching the football.
You're looking for a wide receiver, though, right? You don't want me to do the Devon Achane cop-out? That would be the easiest one. I mean, Devon Achane would be my cop-out. I was hoping River Craycraft. I was going to say, when's he coming back, man? Like, River Craycraft seems like that missing link right now. He doesn't seem like that missing link to this offense almost, so I'm hoping it would be Eric Ezukama, but I mean, if I have to give you an answer and put money on it, Devon Achane. I think he's third right now in targets and receptions, so dude's a huge part. I mean, I did an article, and it almost feels like he might be just as important, if not more, than Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle in this offense, and that's freaking bonkers to think about.
Yeah, it's Achane has really turned into the engine. And dude, you know what? Can we go all in and say, like, Eric Ezukama season? I really think if the Dolphins need someone who can smooth out so many issues, and this is somebody, God, who has not played a lot of professional career games, mostly preseason games, but just somebody who can really help out over the middle, somebody who can help run the football. My eyes are on Eric Ezukama, man. I think he can be that guy for this offense, stir the drink a little bit, and really just help provide an answers for a receiving core that, when we talk about how poorly Miami's offensive line was put together, man, I think we should be feeling the same way about the receiving core. 3 guys on injured reserve, Malik Washington questionable, Odell Beckham on the PUP list, and then saying, we have someone like Grant Dubois who is great doing everything except, catching the football as one of these guys to be a playmaker. It's just a major issue.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wonder how fast did they get caught up in this offense, right? Again, I just don't understand why they were out there in those situations. Robbie Chosen, we know he knows the offense, but why is he out there in those situations instead of Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle? We're going to be asking ourselves this till Mike McDaniel answers. I guess he did. He kind of beat around the bush with it. No real answer.
Josh, what an eventful week. Something I do appreciate it, and I couldn't have done it without you, man. I go back to us talking after that London game. I go back to us talking after the Packers game. And to our listeners who continue to listen, thank you, because we're always here and we appreciate you guys always being here. Being a Dolphins fan is absolutely miserable. I went on a 5-minute speech about how I don't want to wear my Dolphins gear just because I don't want to talk to people. But even with that said, man, I would never decline an opportunity to come talk with you, because for me, this has been very therapeutic. Sorry if I repeated a lot of the stuff you guys said in that other podcast. Sorry you got to listen to my whiny voice again, but there are some general frustrations about this team that had me losing my mind, and I hope at least some of it made sense. And I thank you, Josh, for listening, and I thank all our listeners for sticking with us.
Yeah, that's all this is, right? It's just our therapy sessions where we come on here and talk about the team we love that's, battered and beaten us for 30 plus years. So I'm so thankful that we have our listeners, because I say it all the time, there's no us without them. And again, hopefully that somehow, right now we're down, we're feeling a little bit out. Hopefully this whirlwind's going to pick back up and good things are on the horizon.
If you are liking what you're listening to, please hit that subscribe button. And you can always send us an email at AnotherDolphinsPodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to get your thoughts. We'd love to get you involved with the show. On top of that, if you listen to our voices and would love to see our beautiful faces, we are on the 560 WQAM YouTube channel, so be sure to check that out. We will be back throughout the week with some more shows. Hopefully we'll get some behind the enemy lines for you guys, but I am back from vacation, so we are full steam ahead. Thank you all so much for listening to Another Dolphins podcast. We will be back with a new show soon, but until then, go have a wonderful day, and most importantly, fins up.
Fins up.
Fins up.